And that's very much in keeping with our material today. Before we move ahead into the new material, do a quick review of an idea that appeared in chapter 6, and where it says everyone teaches and teaches all the time. This is a responsibility you inevitably assume the moment you accept any premise at all. And no one can organize his life without some thought system. Once you have developed a thought system of any kind, you live by it and teach it. Your capacity for allegiance to a thought system may be misplaced, but it is still a form of faith that can be redirected. So this idea everyone teaches and teaches all the time, you teach what you believe, is a central idea in the reading that we're doing in this session, which is, it's from section 16.3, the reward of teaching. Hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader for this session is Atisha.
We have already learned that everyone teaches and teaches all the time. You may have taught well, and yet you may not have learned how to accept the comfort of your teaching. If you will consider what you have taught and how alien it is to what you thought you knew, you will be compelled to realize that your teacher came from beyond your thought system. Therefore, he could look upon it fairly and perceive it was untrue. He must have done so from the basis of a very different thought system, and one with nothing in common with yours. For certainly what he has taught and what you have taught through him have nothing in common with what you taught before he came. And the results have been to bring peace where there was pain, and suffering has disappeared to be replaced by joy.
Mm-hmm. So the chief idea here is that whatever we believe in, whatever we accept into our own mind, forms the basis for our thought system. And by accepting it means that we're giving our faith to it, that we are choosing to be guided by those beliefs. And we know that those beliefs can be misguided or they can be holy guidance. And the contrast that it brings out here is between the teaching that you did before the Holy Spirit was recognized by you as your teacher, and the way you conduct or teach yourself now that you're using the Holy Spirit as your guide and teacher. And therefore, it's convincing evidence that this guidance system of the Holy Spirit came from beyond your thought system. Otherwise, you would still be teaching and believing in accordance with your past beliefs. So it's clear evidence that it does not come from you. And the higher level idea here is that the Holy Spirit will look upon our thought system and judge it, meaning our past thought system, and judge it as untrue. You don't need to make that judgment. The Holy Spirit already has made that judgment, and he does so on the basis of a very different thought system from the one that we have held in the past. All right, so we're the theme for this section, the title is the reward of teaching. And so we're going to focus on what was taught and the chaos of what we learned from the world on our own, and contrast that with what we're learning from the Holy Spirit and what are the benefits that emerge as a result of being guided by the Holy Spirit's teachings. We'll go on.
You may have taught freedom, but you have not learned how to be free. I said earlier, by their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. For it is certain that you judge yourself according to your teaching. The ego's teaching produces immediate results because its decisions are immediately accepted as your choice. And this acceptance means that you are willing to judge yourself accordingly. Cause and effect are very clear in the ego's thought system because all your learning has been directed toward establishing the relationship between them. And would you not have faith in what you have so diligently taught yourself to believe? Yet remember how much care you have exerted in choosing its witnesses and in avoiding those which spoke for the cause of truth and its effects.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to examine here a bit in detail of what goes on in our past when we were wholly guided by the ego's teaching. And one of the universal principles is that under your teaching, your belief system, you will then use that as the basis to evaluate yourself or to judge yourself. And since the ego's thought system is premised on guilt and fear and conflict, you will view yourself in that light. The ego does not love you, and you cannot establish a friendly or a loving relationship with you, for its teachings are all fear, anger, and actually hatred based. Therefore, and that then is applied. It's sad commentary, but that then is used against you in your own self-concept. And this produces immediate results. The problem being that those ego thoughts appear in our mind, and because they appear in our mind, somehow we confuse ourselves with those thoughts and immediately accept them as our own. This is one of the foundation insights to mind training, is just because a thought or a feeling appears in your mind does not mean you should be trusted and be guided by it. For if you immediately accept it as your own choice, you then have to live with that judgment, that choice. And this is what are labeled in the Course as cause and effect. By you accepting the ego's thought as your own, you then have to live with the effects of that. And we know that there's only really two emotions, love and fear. And the ego does not promote love. And so the effect you have to live with is fear and all its ramifications. We have lots of other names, anger, guilt, judgment, grievances, hostility, conflict, separation. All that comes under the umbrella of fear. So that's cause and effect under the ego in the ego's thought system. And oddly enough, because we didn't know any better, we actually work towards justifying all that. And our effort is directed towards establishing our relationship between a thought, ego thought that appears in our mind, and the effect, meaning we completely sell ourselves out to it. Anytime you put your faith in something, you give of yourself for it. And so this is faith in what you taught yourself to believe. And isn't it an amazing psychological process to have to question and ultimately withdraw your faith from the things that you taught yourself to believe? I think that is really a profound psychological shift of having invested your faith in a set of beliefs. And then later on, A Course in Miracles or whatever program brings you to that precipice, real causes you to start to question that investment and to divest yourself of that belief and then reinvest your faith instead in holy guidance. We'll go on.
Does not the fact that you have not learned what you have taught show you that you do not perceive the sonship as one? And does it not also show you that you do not regard yourself as one? For it is impossible to teach successfully wholly without conviction, and it is equally impossible that conviction be outside of you. You could never have taught freedom unless you did believe in it. And it must be that what you taught came from yourself. Yet this self you clearly do not know and do not recognize it even though it functions. What functions must be there? And it is only if you deny what it has done that you could possibly deny its presence.
Okay, so we're going to shift and look at the other teaching system, the one the Holy Spirit sponsors. And that is an internally based system. It does not come from the world at large. It comes from deep within. And I really took note of the focus here on conviction of being now this is two meanings of conviction. We don't mean it in the legal sense, but we mean it in the sense of being convinced that this is true. You have conviction of these about these teachings. And so it's impossible that conviction is from outside of you. Conviction comes from deep within. And so it's an entirely different approach to teaching and believing. And so if it comes from within, and this is where the more profound message in this reading comes up, if that conviction comes from within, what part of yourself does it come from? Well, I'm not going to say where, but what is it within yourself that brings about this conviction in a set of ideas that are exactly opposite to the ones you had previously believed in? And the Course refers to it as your self. I prefer to call it your supreme self or your divine self. This self you clearly do not know and do not recognize, even though it functions within you. We just said that it's responsible for giving you conviction about the teachings of the Holy Spirit. Um, for what functions in you must be there, and yet we are on some level of our superficial mind, we might deny the presence of this divine self within us, yet it's clearly evident that this new teaching that comes from deep within is evidence that this self is functioning. So there's uh, a barrier here in the lower mind denying this higher self or just failing to fully accept the presence of this higher self. The lower mind being stubborn and rooted in the past is not on board with the what is obviously true, the presence of this higher self that is giving you conviction about these new teachings.
This is a course in how to know yourself. You have taught what you are, but you have not let what you are teach you. You have been very careful to avoid the obvious and not to see the real cause and effect relationship that is perfectly apparent. Yet within you is everything you taught. What can it be that has not learned it? It must be this part that is really outside yourself, not by your own projection, but in truth. And it is this part that you have taken in that is not you. What you accept into your mind does not really change it. Illusions are but beliefs in what is not there. And the seeming conflict between truth and illusion can only be resolved by separating yourself from the illusion and not from truth.
So it seems to me that this paragraph, the essence of everything that we'll discuss in this session, hinges upon understanding this paragraph. For to go on without getting some clarity about what they mean by outside yourself and inside yourself, to not have that would only becomes more confusing as we go on. So let's really break this down. This is a course in returning you to the awareness of your eternal self. This is a program in how to know your eternal self. But there has been a history of confusion in all of our lives by accepting some other teaching system that they describe as being outside ourself, a part that is really outside yourself. This would be the way the world teaches that you are an ego. By the way, those teachings were here on this world thousands of years before you were born, teachings about the ego. And so where did they come from? They came from outside yourself and were taught to you. And in your childhood, not knowing any better, you accepted them and they became the basis for your belief. But it was an outside teaching system. And the course describes the ego as an alien presence. And we mean that metaphorically as not being your nature, not being who you are. It is foreign to you, alien to your true nature. Your true nature is as God, the same nature that God has, a divine nature. So, with this, we clearly have identified the fundamental problem, and that is that these illusions about the world, about yourself, about reality are but beliefs that were emerged in this world. They're not true, and but they if believing in them results in a conflict between your inner teacher and these alien thoughts that come from outside of you. And the only way to become free is to separate yourself from the illusion of those thoughts which are from outside of you, but not separate yourself from the truth that comes from within. Now, if that's a little complex, that's the nature of the ego, is to produce a set of teachings that have kept humanity confused and disjointed with respect to who am I, this eternal question, what am I? Uh, and that's because there's seemingly two selves, the one that's coming from outside you that wants to influence you, and the true one within you that is waiting patiently and quietly for your acceptance. Atisha?
This is so revolutionary. Because I'm realizing how it just turns the teaching that I received growing up just totally on its head. That that I represent some sort of original sin, and that I have to accept goodness to be saved for salvation. And this is just totally the opposite, which is that the God part of me is natural to me. That is me. And that I just need to, through the course and with the Holy Spirit's help, get rid of those blocks, like the illusion or the false teaching that exerted itself on me. I first I have to be aware of it, and then I have to be willing to have that removed. So it's not a thing that I have to accept. I have to be good enough to receive, but it's already there.
Very well said, Atisha. And yes, this is a profound, like, are you kidding me? I was taught the exact opposite. I mean, whole what? What good did they do? Well, it's not saying they didn't mean well, but they were confused. I think the statement, the blind leading the blind, is perhaps appropriate in that sense, teaching us that we were sinners, and that's our nature. Heidi?
I feel like my ego wrote this paragraph because it's so confusing and deep. I'm not getting it. And I need to know I am love, correct?
Yes.
I am not fear.
True.
So, am I not letting love teach me? It says, but have not let what you are teach you. I thought I was. I thought I am.
The way to clarify this, Heidi, is to the extent that we buy in to the world's belief system, whether it be about original sin, whether It'd be about being a body. It'd be about being guilty to fear. If we buy into that, we're letting the external lie become our belief. If, as Atisha was illustrating, I'm willing to work with the Holy Spirit and undo that external teaching, then we can let love teach us. So there's always in the course, Heidi, two phases. There's the undoing of the great lie to make room for the big truth. And
Perfect.
what is seems to me emphasized more strongly in A Course in Miracles than anywhere else is many systems go directly for the great truth while not addressing adequately the great lie. And that results in a system of belief of a mixture of good and evil, a mixture of a lot of fear and love, which is not freedom. Then you wind up being afraid to love and loving the fear. You wind up all confused.
Thank you.
So undo the great lie from without so that the big love from within might prevail. And as we are learning, that involves a great willingness to undo that lie, mainly because we have already invested ourselves in it earlier in life, and it's become part of our habitual thought process.
And the seeming conflict between truth and illusion can only be resolved by separating yourself from the illusion and not from truth. Your teaching has already done this, for the Holy Spirit is part of you. Created by God, he left neither God nor his creation. He is both God and you, as you are God and him together. For God's answer to the separation added more to you than you tried to take away. He protected both your creations and you together, keeping one with you what you would exclude. And they will take the place of what you took in to replace them. They are quite real, as part of the self you do not know. They communicate to you through the Holy Spirit, and their power and gratitude to you for their creation they offer gladly to your teaching of yourself, who is their home. You who are host to God are also host to them. For nothing real has ever left the mind of its creator, and what is not real was never there.
Mm-hmm. So in this paragraph, they are personifying your creations, referring to them, that the Holy Spirit protects your creations and you together. So let's just circle back for a moment. What fundamentally are we talking about? Your creations. Heidi, we're talking about every moment of love you have ever experienced in your life here on earth. And that includes all aspects of love, such as kindness and helpfulness and patience and understanding, the entire, all those things which are worthy of the Holy Spirit's endorsement are your creations. They become permanently a part of you. They are quite real as part of, and they become part of this divine self that you do not yet know. They exist on the spiritual plane. These are not intellectual terms or ideas, and they're very easy to forget in your memory. For instance, which of you can name the last 24 times where you experienced love in your heart? I'm going to assume that after maybe 2 or 3 or 4, you'd like run out of steam and just say, I don't know. So all those things that we might forget, those creations, the Holy Spirit remembers forever. They become eternally a part of ourselves and of all creation. They become a part of the supreme self that you do not know. And they, in ways that you won't detect, they support you along your journey. For in other words, every time you are kind to someone, you are reinforcing kindness within yourself, and you're becoming more accepting of being kind to, of relating to other people kindly. And so they support your journey in ways that you will not be conscious. You're actually hosting your creations on the spiritual plane. Nothing real has ever left the mind of its creator. Nothing real, your miscreations, those things which are unreal, will be forgotten forever, because they were never really there. But at your creations, all those things which are born of love are forever remain part of you. Any questions on that? We see that come up again. More than any thing I've ever read, A Course in Miracles emphasizes these creations. They are our reality, but they are not necessarily remembered in our material mind, nor are we aware of all the accumulated creations from a lifetime. That's what the Holy Spirit does, is ensures that nothing is ever lost.
You are not two selves in conflict. What is beyond God? If you who hold him and whom he holds are the universe, all else must be outside, where nothing is. You have taught this, and from far off in the universe, yet not beyond yourself, the witnesses to your teaching have gathered to help you learn. Their gratitude has joined with yours and God's to strengthen your faith in what you taught. For what you taught is true. Alone, you stand outside your teaching and apart from it. But with them, you must learn that you but taught yourself and learned from the conviction you shared with them.
Mm-hmm. So perhaps more than most any section, this section really emphasizes that which is outside of you, which is really not meaningful, and that which is within, where all reality, all meaning, all identity can be found. In a way that is abstract, all the entire universe is within you. For the light that caused all of creation, the divine light, is within you, and all the effects of that divine light, therefore, are within you. And so we contrast the outside and the inside. within, you learn that the truth has emerged from within yourself, that your higher self has revealed to you the truth that stood different from what you learned from without. It really is, again, Tisha's example serves as a practical example. She was taught that she was born in sin and she's a sinner, and she needed to accept something from outside of her to redeem herself in the eyes of God. What we're saying is that is the big lie, that the goodness is outside of you and the sin is part of your nature. We're saying that the truth is goodness and light and love are a part of your nature. And these ideas about sin come from outside of you. And so the thing that you can remember is the conviction of this truth. You learn from the conviction, you share with them. Them, I believe, is still talking about the creations. Let me just check real quick. Their gratitude is joined with the witnesses to your teaching have gathered to help you learn. So yes, we're talking about your creations, of which includes, again, the entire universe. It includes everyone is a part of this divine supreme self. It's a totality. And I know this is hard, being raised in the idea of separation. It's hard to believe that the whole creation abides within you, not just a fragment of creation, but that the whole creation abides in you, the way the Course teaches the part as whole and the whole in every part. So another way of approaching this is when God gives a gift of his light and his love, he doesn't just slice up a little piece and give it to you. He gives it all. That's to have, give all, to all. He lives by that principle. And so what we're saying is that it's all, the truth is already completely in you. As you said, Heidi, we are love within. And as long as we're willing to discard those external beliefs that tell us we're something else, the conviction of the love within will guide us forward. You but teach yourself. It's your higher self within you is teaching your conscious mind who you are. Remember, we said that in the previous that this is a course in how to know yourself. Your inner divine self is teaching your conscious mind who you are. Now, we want to underscore this idea here that the Course is not saying you are two selves. We're saying that there's only one self, that's the self in you. The other one that appears to be a self is an illusion of a self. The ego notion of you was never the truth. It is a lie. It is a miscreation. It's a shared miscreation about being something separate from the creation, separate from God.
This year, you will begin to learn and make learning commensurate with teaching. You have chosen this by your own willingness to teach. Though you seemed to suffer for it, the joy of teaching will yet be yours. For the joy of teaching is in the learner, who offers it to the teacher in gratitude and shares it with him. As you learn, your gratitude to yourself, who teaches you what he is, will grow and help you honor him. And you will learn his power and strength and purity, and love him as his Father does. His kingdom has no limits and no end, and there is nothing in him that is not perfect and eternal. All this is you, and nothing outside of this is you. To your most holy self, all praise is due for what you are, and for what he is who created you as you are.
Mm-hmm. So, this concept of the holy self, the divine self, the supreme self, however one wants to reference it, is not the ego self that we mistakenly thought we were. But it is the self that will teach us. And I think this is very clear here. As you learn your relationship to your divine self, see, we're used to relating to our ego self. This is the true, lasting, eternal relationship is with our divine self. Your gratitude to yourself will grow and help you honor him. You become increasingly aware that there is something within which previously we did not know, that we start to become aware of, to recognize, to know again. And one of the first evidences that you have of that is that you start learning along the lines of this course. You start gaining awareness in ways that you could never have done under the ego's guidance. And so the evidence is in your own life, in your own experience. And it's only natural that you should express your gratitude for this growth and help that you're receiving. It says you will learn his power, strength, and purity, and you will come to love the divine self as your Father does. So it's very clear from this passage, we're not referring to the Father within you. We're referring to something that is not the Father. And so we're not going to spend a lot of time on that because that's becomes like a theological system, and the course intention of the course is not to develop this hierarchy, a theological hierarchy of divinity, but the clue is right here. You will come to love him, the self, as the Father does. It's clear that there's making a distinction there. All this is you, and nothing outside of this is you. We'll go on. There we go.
To your most holy self, all praise is due for what you are and for what he is who created you as you are. Sooner or later must everyone bridge the gap he imagines exists between his selves. Each one builds this bridge, which carries him across the gap as soon as he is willing to expend some little effort on behalf of bridging it. His little efforts are powerfully supplemented by the strength of heaven and by the united will of all who make heaven what it is, being joined within it. And so the one who would cross over is literally transported there. Your bridge is builded stronger than you think, and your foot is planted firmly on it. Have no fear that the attraction of those who stand on the other side and wait for you will not draw you safely across. For you will come where you would be and where yourself awaits you.
So this becomes a metaphor that is used throughout the whole course. It's the idea of a bridge that crosses over a gap. So we can understand these meanings of these metaphors. First of all, what is the gap? The gap is an illusion that there are two of you that are separated by some distance, that two parts of you that are completely different. That's an illusion because there's really not two of you. But as long as you believe in your ego is prevailing in your life, that means you believe that that's one self. And of course, there's the other true self within you. So you see, Heidi, it's confusing because the ego would have you believe in a self that is not true. And yet the entire basis for the ego is the belief in this illusion that is not true. It's a worldwide illusion, a shared illusion throughout the world that there is this little self, this guilty self. To use religious terms, there's this sinful self, this unworthy self. And what the Course is saying is that's not true, but as long as you believe it, we'll provide a way out. And so the gap is a distance between that illusory self and your most holy self, your divine self. And the bridge enables you to get from your false self over to your true self. And that is used throughout the Course in Miracles, referring to both the gap and the bridge. And we're to trust in the guidance across the bridge. It's a sure thing that you'll bridge this gap between your false self and your true self. And it's there only because we imagine there's a gap between two selves. For in other words, rather than the Holy Spirit will never yank a thought out of your mind that you want to keep. So as long as you imagine there's an ego self, Holy Spirit will work with that and gently beckon you across the bridge. Couple hands up, Atisha.
In that second paragraph, the use of the word builded is interesting to me. And so I think, like, why wasn't the word built used, and I'm wondering if it has anything to do with like present tense versus past tense. Like the bridge is, if the word built had been used, that means that the bridge was built.
Right.
But the word builded sounds like it's like a continual building.
I like that. I like the interpretation you just offered there. It works for me. Yeah. Thank you. Susie?
Yeah, I just was rereading paragraph 7 over and over again, and it's just, for me, it's such a wonderful paragraph because it's like, it's telling me, and in practical terms or sense or whatever, that, and I do have gratitude for my higher self. And like the fact that there is a higher self, and then I'm not my ego, and I'm not everything that was taught to me and who I thought I am. And I have this ability in me to be, and for me, this paragraph is just about peace. Like, if I reside here and I allow myself to be taught by the teacher, which it says is really inside of me, then I will just experience peace and joy and love, right? And not the pain and the suffering that my ego teaches me. And it's so interesting because this morning when I was doing my lesson, which was it? Call on God and He'll always be there, something like that. I need but call and you will answer me. I was profound gratitude that there is someone I can call on and they will answer and help me. And that's the Holy Spirit. And I don't know, I'm all over the place, but I just love this paragraph and I never really understood it before. Like I understand it today. So
That's
yeah.
really a wonderful testimony, Susie, to sticking with it, because this is maybe at least the third time you've been through the textbook here, and now it becomes really meaningful and really clear in ways that before just didn't have the clarity.
Yeah, and I just have to say, like, I can't ever go back, which is a wonderful feeling. I don't want to ever go back to that complete unawareness and ego life. And I don't, yeah, I never want to go back, but like I can't go back because I already know now, like to experience peace and joy, which I never did before. Like I don't want to ever not have that and just live with my in the Susie and the ego, and it's a lot of gratitude for that. A lot of gratitude for that. So today's lesson helped me know, like, I don't have to stay with Susie. I have blips and lapses, no doubt, of course, every day, but I don't have to stay there. And it's wonderful because I used to think I had to stay there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So the metaphor is the bridge is being built, present tense, and that we are on a journey across it, and that our divine self awaits us on the other side. And just to illustrate what that might look like is in this graphic here. The problem is we think there is this dejected shadow self, the false self, the ego self, that we've been looking to and trying to make an identity out of it. It says, Carl Jung said, and the Course verifies it, that we spend Carl Jung said the first half of our life we spend formulating the ego, and the second half we spend deconstructing it. And Course in Miracles is very consistent with that, though it doesn't divide it along the line of first half and second half necessarily. And so the bridge carries us across to where we are filled with the awareness of recognizing our true self, for whom we did not know previously, because we were, so to speak, looking in the mirror and seeing our body or seeing our shame, seeing our guilt. Maybe we were taught that we are sinful, blah, 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 blah. All those illusions, that beliefs that aren't there. By the time we get across the bridge, then that is freedom from all that dissolves the belief in the other self, the lower self, the false self. And then we can stand in the light and happiness. This is a state, Heidi, where we feel the love continuously, because there's no interference that comes along that would cause us to believe otherwise. Paul, you had your hand up.
Oh, Jonica, when it says that we are building the bridge, could you just clarify that a little more?
Yeah, the way you think about it, Paul, is every step you take across the bridge requires your willingness. You are not being dragged by some external force across the bridge, but you're advancing forward according to your own decisions, your willingness to step forward, which is also, as we know, a letting go of what was behind us. And so we are the determiners of the rate at which we move across the bridge. When I say we, let me be more specific. Each one of us determines when we'll take the next step across the bridge. So we're co-creators of that bridge. We're building it together. Now, the design for it and the path of the bridge and how it's accomplished are already in the mind of the Holy Spirit. We don't need to, that's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to take the next step that is given to us. And the Holy Spirit customizes the curriculum for each one of us, so that the next step for you, only the Holy Spirit can tell you exactly what that is.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
But I will tell you the next step is in the next 24 hours. For in other words, we're not talking about something that's far away. The way you treat other people, the way you treat yourself, the way you show up in any encounter, that's the opportunity for the next step. David, you had your hand up.
I was just thinking about what Paul said. And for me, building the bridge is really, this whole course is about learning to change my mind. And like Susie says, once you start doing it, and you start doing it, and you start doing it, it just becomes easier. It's just, I mean, the time gets less. It actually just becomes funny, because it's about identifying it and then letting go of it. That's the art of it. So it's building the bridge is just every time you go over it, it just gets stronger and stronger so that it really is easier just to let it go. It's a miraculous process. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, David. I hear you, brother. Your small efforts are powerfully supported. It might seem, because the responsibility for your next step is in your hands, it might seem that we're alone in that, but in truth, we're in this together. We're supporting one another, for relationships are where this progress shows up. That's the vessel in which the steps forward appear. So that's as far as we're going to go for this session. I'll remind you that we begin at 7 o'clock on Monday and 6 o'clock on Sunday. And it was really a pleasure going through this material here today, because it really is a course and about how to know your true self once again. And so that theme, we'll pick that up again and again as we go forward. So thank you all very much. Atisha, thank you so much for reading. Thank you all for your kindness and your sharing. Namaste.
Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tisha.
Jonica. Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Jonica.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Peace.
Jonica, may I say something?
Sure.